Welcome back, guys. This is going to be a video on Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. The fight's coming up on August the 28th. I'm really looking forward to this fight. Now, what do I think about the fight? The fight with Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul. It's happening pretty soon, right? So now comes the time to assess both fighters' abilities and come to a educated conclusion as to who will win this fight. Now, Tyron Woodley is a fucking former UFC welterweight champion. He went on to defend his title 4 times. He knocked out the likes of Josh Koscheck. It's kind of hard to pronounce his name, but Josh Koscheck, Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit. He submitted Darren Till. He beat Stephen Thompson twice. He beat Wonderboy one time, had a draw with the first fight. You know, he did beat him fair and square in the second fight. Very boring fight, very tactical fight. I get it, but that's cool. But he did beat him. And he beat Damian Maia. He shut him out completely, defended all the takedowns. Now, look at Jake Paul. He's a YouTuber, he hasn't fought the same caliber of opponents, that's for sure. I mean, he's been training for around, 3 to 4 years now in boxing. He's a former Disney star. The only fighter Jake's fought is Ben Askren. He's an MMA fighter, but, he was known for his wrestling throughout his career at Bellator, at 1FC, and, at least recently the UFC. He has very bad hands, doesn't know how to box, just trash boxing ability, was known for his wrestling, took guys down and dominated on the ground. He would really just throw a couple punches to get the takedown attempt. And that's what Ben would do his whole career. So he's not a boxer. So Jake being Ben Askren isn't really it doesn't really say too much, but it does give him the reputation of a boxer. It does build his reputation up because now he's beat a fighter. First he's fought a fighter. He's fought a real fighter, but an MMA fighter, a wrestler with a bad hip. Now, that's a step up in competition from Nate Robinson because of the credentials. Because of the credentials, that's definitely a step up, it's definitely a step up if you compare him to Nate Robinson and Aneeson Gibb. But, come on. This is by far Jake Paul's biggest test. By far. Now, can we say the same? Can we say that Jake Paul is the biggest test for Tyron Woodley? Absolutely not. But we got to consider the caveat here. We got to look into this a bit more. This is going to be a boxing match. It's not going to be an MMA fight. So there's a lot more at stake here, and there's a lot more, there's a lot more to be said of this fight because it's a boxing match scheduled for 8 rounds. So it's going to be a bit longer than a traditional MMA fight for Tyron Woodley. We don't know how Tyron Woodley's gas tank is going to hold on because he does start to, reduce his output in the later rounds. Now, Tyron Woodley, he's a good explosive boxer. He's a good explosive wrestler with a good overhand right. He's not a boxer that will throw hooks to the body and weave in and out of range. Has a good jab? No, doesn't have any of those weapons. He mainly throws an overhand right. But that's it. That's all he has. He uses the threat of the takedowns to set up the overhand right. And that's what causes his opponents to overcommit. And then they get hit with the overhand right because they're, scared of the takedown. So then they're going to try to defend the takedown. And then he comes up top with the overhand right and lands. That's what he did with Robbie Lawler. That's what he did with Josh Koscheck. That's what he did with Darren Till. That's what he did with Stephen Thompson at times. So it's interesting, but I feel like Jake Paul is going to win this fight. Why do I think Jake Paul's going to win this fight? Because, you can always, you can counter that overhand right. Because Jake knows the overhand right is coming. Tyron has to add more weapons to his repertoire before he gets into the ring with Jake Paul. Now, does he have the time and training needed to accomplish that goal? I don't know about that. The fight was announced sometime in June. So he had 2 months to prepare and some change? I don't think that's enough time. Jake Paul, I think he's a better boxer, but Tyron Woodley is a better MMA fighter. That's how I feel this fight is going to go. Now, boxing is part of MMA. It's a part of the toolbox that, fighters have to have. They have to have that in their toolbox. Even Khabib has to have some type of boxing skill. Even though his wrestling is the main and the dominant force as to how he wins fights, boxing is the first thing they learn. I don't think it's the first thing they learn, but they have to know it to be able to fight. So Tyron definitely knows how to throw a jab. He knows how to weave in and out, but he hasn't shown that before. He hasn't shown that in his fights. He hasn't drilled that into his game plan. So I'm assuming that he probably doesn't really know how to throw those punches effectively. So coming into the fight with Jake Paul, I think Jake Paul is going to be able to outfox him. Definitely going to be able to, weave in and out of range. Definitely try to befuddle Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley is going to look for range. Try to throw that overhand right. Probably miss a couple times. More than he's used to. He's probably going to miss more than he's used to. And that's going to frustrate him. He's going to get tired. If Jake goes to the body, I think that could pay dividends later in the fight. Jake Paul is training with BJ Flores now, which he's a good coach. He's a very good coach. So that's another thing that we got to consider. He's got a good coach around him. Tyron Woodley's fucking training with He's training with Floyd Mayweather for 1 day. I don't know how that's really gonna help you. And you're training for a boxing match for 2 months. How are you gonna train boxing for 2 months? You can't prepare yourself for a full match in 2 months. It's kind of a tall order. You gotta learn how to throw hooks to the body. You gotta learn how to throw jabs. You gotta learn when to throw and when to defend punches. You gotta know how to safely get in and out of range. You have to know some footwork. You have to know when your opponent's tired. He gets all of those things. He's an MMA fighter. He can fight. He can fight his ass off. No disrespect to Tyron Woodley. He's a former UFC welterweight champion. The dude can fight, but can he box? That's the difference. Can he box? I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that. In his last fight, he got dropped by Vicente Luque. You got dropped by Vicente Luque, brody. That's a bit of a reckless way to fight. You're gonna get dropped by Luque. Luque's not even a boxer. He's got some good striking, but he's not a boxer. I clipped with that left hook. The left hook is what got Tyron Woodley going down to the. I think Jake can beat him. I think Jake can beat him. Tyron's boxing is not top class, not top notch. His wrestling and his pressure, not really. He stays with his back up against the cage. He's got his back up against the cage, and he waits for the opportunity to throw one punch, to throw the overhand right. And if the overhand right misses, he waits to throw the punch again another time. He keeps waiting for those counters to keep throwing those punches when they come and overcommit. So really, if Jake throws combinations, that's where he might be in trouble. Because Tyron's going to come and look for that opening and throw the overhand right and knock out Jake Paul. That's what he's hoping for. That one punch that's going to knock him out. But that punch may never come because you're not committing enough. You're sitting back and just waiting. You can't wait. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about this video, about this fight. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you guys think about the video, and I'm out. Peace.